Hi, my name is Megan Henry, and this is my peer-to-peer teaching lesson plan. The content standard that I chose is from Earth Science, and it is about how human activities really have an impact on Earth. But there are people and communities out there that are taking steps to protect those resources and our environment. The slideshow presentation that I have here is something that I would be able to use in my class. I do have a couple additional ones in there just to kind of set the stage for this presentation, but this is something that I could use for this lesson. So this is an example of what students would see as they walked into the room. And then after everybody's situated, we begin class. Okay, good morning, students. I have a very unique job for you today. Okay, is there anything that anybody notices that's different or a little off about the classroom? And this is the point where we could talk about, have a little class discussion about anything that seems a little different. We're looking for mention of the garbage bags in the classroom. Okay, so this is what I want you guys to do. How could trash bags relate to science? Why are we talking about trash bags in science class? I want you guys to think about it for a second. Now we're going to pair up with a partner and share some of our ideas. So I give the students probably about 20 to 30 seconds, let them share with their partner. And then we come back and have a discussion about some of the different ideas that students had about how this would, the concept of these trash bags would relate to science in some way. Okay. So yesterday we were talking about some of Earth's natural resources. But what is a natural resource? Okay. Does anybody have any examples of natural resources that they could use to help them form a definition of what a natural resource is? And then this would just be another opportunity for discussion. And then after some discussion, so natural resources, they are materials and substances that are supplied by nature. They come from nature. Now, some of these pictures are not exactly what the material will look like when you find it in nature, but these are visual representations of some of the natural resources that we have. So we have some water and sand, a couple different animals we have here, oil, coal, metal, soil, and vegetation. Sunlight is another natural resource. The air we breathe in our lungs is a natural resource, and rocks. These are some of the examples of what natural resources are. Okay. So what are we doing today? How does this all pull together? Well, what our goal today is going to be is to identify actions that we can take as students, as teachers, as people in our community that can reduce the negative impact that we have on Earth. Okay. And at the end, we're going to take some of these actions, and then we're going to create a visual aid that shows people that are already doing this. Okay. We're going to look into the actions that we can take to do this, and then find people that are already doing it and show the positive impact that they're having. Okay. So when we think of an impact, okay, when you step into the sand, your foot impacts into the sand. So when you walk down the beach, has anybody ever seen, when you're walking down the beach, the footprints that you leave in there? Okay, the pressure from your foot onto the sand, it kind of moves the sand around, right? Okay, so whenever we use resources, the natural resources on Earth, it's like we're making a footprint on the Earth, okay? Or the footprint in the sand, the resources that we're using, it's putting this impact, this footprint on our Earth. So when we make choices, every day, every minute, throughout the years, we're slowly making more and more of an impact as we walk along, okay? Our footprints kind of keep going. So what we're going to do to kind of explore this a little bit is we are going to look at if everybody in the world lived like me or you, each one of you, how many Earths do you think that we would need to sustain or keep up with our needs? Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to think about that for a second. Okay, and then with your groups or with your table mates, I want you to kind of discuss a little bit. Like, what do you think? Can you maybe provide an example with your group? So then this would allow time for the students to share with their group mates, kind of have a little discussion. Okay, and the students would have a worksheet, and at the top of the worksheet, there's a section for them to make a prediction of how many Earths they would need. Do they think the one Earth that we have is enough? Do they think they would need more, or that we as a world would need more? And then the next step of the activity is, all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go onto this footprint calculator website. We're going to answer some questions on there about some of the resources we use. And we are going to figure out how many Earths it would take to sustain life if everybody lived exactly like you did. So when the students will go off to do this, they are going to take the questionnaire. I think I have this is the example of the worksheet that they would have at the very top. There's the prediction portion. Okay, and then as they work through, once they finish the activity, there's results for then how many Earths it actually calculated that they need. And then there are, on the solutions tab, it shows the areas where they're making the largest impact. And then they have this little reflection that they'll do at the end. But they are going to document these results and then answer these questions at the bottom. And most of the questions are kind of open-ended, where they just kind of like, how did that make you feel? Like, you have this prediction of how many Earths you thought. You have been told what the results are. Like, how do you feel now? Like, what are you thinking? I mean, it could be happy, it could be sad, it could be, confused, anything like that. So it's kind of open-ended. This is what the students would look like, or the webpage would look like, where they have their ecological footprint. And a lot of their results are going to document on that page. So when the activity was sent in, it usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes, about 5 minutes maybe to do the quiz. And then, as they explore some of the data, maybe another 5 minutes and filling in the questions. So not too long. But then following that activity, we're going to regroup and kind of just talk about what happened. So one of the things is, did any of the results surprise you? And students, this would just be another opportunity for discussion where we kind of go back and forth. And talking, and then if any questions came up, we can kind of go over those. But this other question here is, compared to the original prediction, was your result higher or lower? And then if anybody was comfortable sharing, this would be another opportunity for them to review that worksheet and talk about how it made them feel about what that was. So then I think a part of another ongoing assessment that we have in here is just conducting a class poll. So I have this poll at the end here where students are either going to do a thumbs up if it showed them something new about their use of Earth's resources, a thumbs down if they don't think this taught them anything, or some to the side where it's like, well, kind of, or just kind of got them thinking, but they're maybe it's something that they already knew. So that's kind of just a poll with all that. So this is an example of the slide what students would be looking at. It shows like your biggest areas of impact, where here you can see shelter, mobility, and food. And their solutions tabs, this is where they can explore. So this is just an example of what they would see. So the big idea of this activity was to see what each of your ecological footprints was, okay? But what is an ecological footprint? Do we know what that means? Okay, so what can we use from the activity that we just did to help you form that definition? So back at the beginning of class, when we were talking about natural resources, we used some examples of what natural resources are to help us create a definition. So what can we use from this activity to form that definition? And then this would just be a discussion piece. Okay, so this is what an ecological footprint is. And an ecological footprint refers to the impact people, individuals and communities, have on the environment. Okay, and we measure ecological footprints by looking at how much land a person would need to sustain their lifestyle, because land is where all of our resources come from. Okay, the more resources you use, the more land you need. So as your resources goes up, the number of earths that you need will be more because there's only so much land. Okay, so now let's think back to the beginning of class. Remember all of those garbage bags that were laying around the room? And we're trying to figure out how this relates to science. Well, guess what? These garbage bags that are laying here, this is how much garbage we throw away at this school every day. And for reference, I just used the school that I work at, which is a pretty small school, only about 300 kids. So about 7 bags of garbage. Okay, so let's think about it. 7 bags of garbage for our school every day. Okay, so something I want you to think about. We throw away 7 bags of garbage. There are 60,000 schools in the United States. Okay, so we take 60,000 schools. Let's just say everybody has only 7 bags of garbage like we do. That's 420,000 bags of garbage per day. Okay, and everything in there comes from a resource on Earth. It's coming from somewhere. Okay, now if we think 420,000 bags of garbage, well, each bag weighs about 15 pounds. So if we multiply those together, that's 6,300,000 pounds of garbage every day. That's the waste we are generating from the resources we're using from the earth. Okay, so all of that garbage, it's coming from somewhere. So because we cannot create more earths, what can we do? What are we doing about it? Okay, and that's really what this activity is about, is figuring that out. Okay, so at the end of your footprint calculator, you had a solutions tab. Okay, and it kind of gave you a little preview of different actions people are taking to make some changes. So in your footprint review, there was a section for you to list a couple actions that you could potentially take to make some changes. So let's go around and share some of those. So at this point, we would have a little discussion about some of the examples people had to actions they could take. So we would do that. And then after that, I have, what can we do? How can we help? So this is a link to a video. It's called the 7 Billion Dreams video. And it's just a short 2-minute video that kind of just gives a little preview about this is one Earth. We have, well, now I think over 8 billion people, but 7 billion people, but only one Earth. What can we do to protect it? So after we show that, what we're going to do now, class, is we are going to come up with and research one change that we can make ourselves. And then we're going to look up how other people are actually doing it. And we're going to create a visual presentation. Okay, so the changes can be anything. Even if it seems really small to you, like something like turning the water off when you're brushing your teeth. Water is a natural resource. There's only so much water. What about single-use plastic? Does anybody know what single-use plastic is? Okay, you think like, oh, you got a bottle of water. Or, oh, your cheese wrapper. Or if you have a string cheese for lunch, the wrapper on there, single-use means we can only use it one time and then it gets thrown away. Okay, these are all examples of things that we can do. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let you guys pick the activity or action that you can do to make a change. And then you're going to create some kind of visual presentation. It can be a poster, it can be a pamphlet. You can create a chart, a PowerPoint, whatever you think is going to show your research best. And what I want you to do is use some of that vocabulary in there. Talk about what an ecological footprint is. Talk about recycling, reducing. Okay, show that you know and that you've researched how we can help. Okay, and then when those are all done, you will have the option to present it to the class. If some of you are feeling really confident, and I would absolutely love this, if it's something that maybe we can do here at school, I think we could, try to maybe take that to the principal, but something that we can actually do to make a change and then show me somebody in the community that's doing it. Okay. And then at this point of the lesson, it would be like more work and reflection time where students would have the opportunity to start looking up their material. And I would kind of be circulating throughout the class and helping where I'm needed. Um, and this is another reference where I could leave this up and students could use it. But, the idea is think like, how can we shrink or make our ecological footprint smaller so we can protect our resources? So this visual aid project